Eyup, we're going to look at our League One predictions for this weekend's games. Game week 3. Last week, half decent, you know. I got 8 teams right. And I'll tell you what, high score already. We're not beating that all year. And I'll tell you what, boys and girls, this first game, despite looking at it and it not being the most exhilarating fixture to ever grace League One, this is two good sides. This will be an hard game to call, and I think it'd be a good watch this. It's on at AF12. I don't know what other ones are on it. I think Exeter are and maybe another one. But I might clock into this. Burton, obviously being at home, they won 2-1 against Mansfield in the first game, which are a good win. And then they come to Barnsley. They did lose 3-2, but they were 2-0 up against us at half-time. That Webster in middle, outstanding footballer. He is very good. Port Vale, I think, were extremely unlucky to not come away with a win against Cardiff on the Thursday night. And if they just found a bit more of a clinical biting edge in final third, or a linesman with eyes that weren't painted on, then they'd have won anyway. Tough game. I think there'll be goals in it as well, because they can obviously both be got at. Port Vale, I do think, probably got a little bit more about them, but I would go with a draw. I will say 1 apiece for Burton Port Vale to get us rocking and rolling here for League One. They're on at half 12 extra, and they've got Mansfield at home in the early kickoff as well. Obviously 4-1 winners against Blackpool, which I didn't think anybody saw coming really. But if Exeter want to give them a good chance of staying up, they've got to be good at home. Same as Mansfield, both of these sides are in the same boat. Any points that you can pick up away, it's a bit of a bonus when you're going to be a bottom, like, 8 or whatever. Like, any of the teams that think they've got a slight chance that they're going to be scrapping, you've got to be winning your home games, or not losing as many as you can, really. A point is much better down at bottom than it is at top. If you draw a game and you're going for autos or playoffs or something, you feel like you've lost. A point to sides like these two might honestly be a difference towards end. And like I said, Exeter were really good against Blackpool and they won 4-1. Mansfield are going to be a bit more defensively switched on, I think. And they're not going to come and go for a win as much as Blackpool probably would, so Exeter can't take advantage of the gaps that will be made on back of that. But Mansfield did go to Chesterfield in what is a derby and won 2-0 in midweek, and Chesterfield are a good League Two side. Clough is a good manager as well for Mansfield. But I'm going to back Exeter. I think they'll want to build on back a 4-1 win against Blackpool. They'll be quite high on life. And like I said, I think they've got to take advantage of the home games when they do come against sides that they think they could beat. And this is one. I think it will be 2-1 to Exeter. Not as exciting as the Blackpool one, but I still think they'll win. Right. Barnsley and Bolton next up. God, are we mate already? So we've both played Plymouth in the first 2 games. We've both beaten them. And then Bolton obviously lost their first one to Stockport. And in our last game, Barnsley, we were 2-0 down at home to Burton, but ended up winning. This is going to have goals in it. I know that's a given with Barnsley anyway, every single week. But if this doesn't have at least 4 goals, I'll be very surprised. Both midfields, very good on surface of it. Obviously, Sheehan, Xavi Simons, Ethan Errihan, there's loads. They've literally got so many players at middle at Park, Bolton, that it's scary. Barnsley's Connell, Phillips, Russell, Bland, Yoga Nathan. There's a lot of options there. Kelly. There's a lot of options there for both sides that I think they could probably cancel each other out in that area at pitch. I fancy us going forward a little bit more than them, just based on Davis Keeley, Dunn and McGoldrick, obviously. But the wingers of both these games is what's going to decide this down flanks. Defensively, I mean, we've obviously got us problems that are quite obvious, but I think Bolton have as well. I do think Bolton's defence is marginally better than ours, but I think going forward we're better than them. It's going to be a lot of cancelling each other out, but I still think the attacking side of things from both teams here is going to make it. This is just going to be a slugfest. I am worried about our width, especially with their wingers. That fellow that's on loan from Brighton for them looks shit hot. They look really good, Bolton, going forward down widths. But so do we at the same time. And Shepherd's going to be thrown straight back into centre-back for us. I'd hope that we've got a defender in by then, but I doubt it, to be honest. I don't think Bolton will have any more changes to the starting 11 by the time that this weekend comes. I do think, like I said, there's going to be goals in this. I am feeling we're a decent atmosphere. I like Barnsley when there's something online. And I will say 3-1 to Barnsley because of it. I think it'll be very, very tight, edgy game, but maybe we'll be 2-1 up and then they'll push bodies forward and we'll nick it late on. But I think we will win that game to give us 3-3. But Bolton are a very good side. Would not surprise me at all if this is a fixture again in May. Tell you what, there's some good games on here. And speaking of 3-3, Huddersfield are away at Blackpool. The current league leaders, Huddersfield and Barnsley, top 2, but Stockport, Luton, Stevenage and Donny, there's 6 teams that have won both games. Blackpool one of 6 as well that have lost both games. Obviously, like I said, they got tonked by Exeter 4-1 away. They lost at home to Stevenage first game. They lost it to Port Vale at home midweek in Cup. It's not been the best start, really. I don't know why I'm surprised. Well, I'm not. I'm more surprised that I listened to people that were gaslighting me into saying that Blackpool are going to walk this shit league. Huddersfield have set tone at early doors. 5 goals scored, none conceded. They look very good in every area at pitch. The depth's incredible. And I do worry for Blackpool if they could create enough to deal with Huddersfield really defensively. In middle of park, I do think Huddersfield will just have this under control. I think they'll have a lot of possession. I think they'll control play and dictate tempo and everything. It'll be up to Huddersfield to really set tone for this game. But Blackpool, you'd expect to shove that Taylor in that they bought from Nottingham Forest straight up front. I do think this is the first game where Huddersfield concede. But I just really do think they are good, Huddersfield. And I will go 3 for 3 in terms of wins and losses. I think Huddersfield win this game away at Blackpool 2-1. So Blackpool nil pois from 3 and Huddersfield 9 for 9. Another one that could do it. Luton away at Bradford. Bradford obviously drew 0-0 with Northampton, and I don't speak about 0-0s ever on the EFL reviews that I do, but I will address it now quickly. If Bradford weren't so wasteful inside 6-yard box, they'd have won that game, and they'd have been in this conversation with other 6 teams that have done it as a team that have won both opening games. And they won away at Blackburn midweek, which is really impressive. Now the thing is with Bradford that's worrying me, any Barnsley fan will tell you Humphries is not a number 9. Humphries himself will tell you that Humphries is not a 9, he's a winger. And I believe for the Northampton game, and the Wycombe one actually, I think they're starting him up front. And it worked against Wycombe, obviously, but he is not a number 9, he is a winger. You will get the best out of him if you start him out wide on left. And if they don't do that, you're just wasting such a talented player that you've got. Take it from someone who saw it 46 times last year. You put him out wide, you've got a completely different player there to what you've got up front. 2 completely contrasting levels. And when you've got someone who could be this, why give him this? And against someone like Luton, who, like we've seen, are going to be hard to break down, hard to create chances against anywhere, you need a bit of individual flair from somebody, like a winger, like Stephen Humphries, someone that you can drill ball to feet that can just take a man on. Because you will not make many chances from other areas at pitch unless you get it out wide against Luton. Down middle, they're very solid with like Clark, Saville, Liam Walsh at middle, Mads Anderson centre half, Kelly at net. They're very solid spine there. If you can't exploit the width, you will never crack them up and down middle. And I don't think they'll learn the lesson, personally, Bradford. Like, they've had a really good start, don't get me wrong. But I think Luton, and like I've said, I think Bradford will be very hard to beat at their place. But I think Luton might be one that could do it. I'll go 1-0 to Luton. I think Bradford will struggle to create a lot of chances there. Cardiff at home to Rotherham. Now, I don't know the extent to Nombe's injury for Rotherham. He got injured in the Stevenage game, didn't he? But then he weren't in the squad at all against Salford. So I know they obviously won on penalties against Salford. But apart from Nombe, I struggle to see a great deal of quality in this side. I've said it so many times that it doesn't even need repeating again. Cardiff, though, like, they were really good first game against Peterborough because it were 2 very young sides going up against each other. Against Port Vale, a much more senior, experienced team that can play it ref a little bit, that know when to buy fouls, that could get cards off you willy-nilly. I think they struggled quite a lot, and like I said, Port Vale definitely deserved win there. As much as Cardiff are definitely the better side here, I worry that with the experience that Rotherham have got, they could come and definitely do a job on Cardiff here. Like, Cardiff are a very young team. I think the defence won't have a great deal to do against Rotherham, but they're lunging quite a bit. They like to get a challenge in, don't they? They're not shy with putting a foot in Cardiff, which is good, but they're doing it in daft places. And that's the thing from both games that I saw. Because I've watched both Cardiff's games so far this season, like full 90s. And it's a thing with both games. They're going in for silly challenges in silly places because they've got young, inexperienced lads who, even though you're a professional footballer, aren't knowing when and when not to go in daft like that. Rotherham, I think they're shit. Like, don't get me wrong, I think they're going down. But seriously, I think they could come and nick something here. I will go with a 1-1 for Cardiff and Rotherham. Donny at home to Wycombe. Now, maybe the most surprising start to anybody in this league, really, so far. Donny, obviously, they were League 2 champions last season, so you expect something half decent from a champion of a bottom division. But the first 2 games, they've won both of them, obviously. They were miles and miles better than Exeter in first game. Mansfield, they rode the luck a little bit, but obviously played off a set piece and some scrappy goals at end. But who cares? They all count for the same thing, don't they? Mansfield's screaming don't count for 2, as opposed to Donny's. Great manager in McCann. And then, obviously, going to Middlesbrough midweek, changing full 11 against a very strong Middlesbrough side and destroying them 4-0. Very, very nice start for Donny to this division. Obviously, they've won both games. They're in 6th with Costa, but also joint top. And playing Wycombe at home, who they've sold Richard Corney to QPR for a club record fee. Obviously, the bet Leyton Orient away midweek, Wycombe, and against Stockport, I do think they were probably better side. They were creating chances. They were a little bit more on front foot than they were against Bradford. And I do think they will show a little bit more here. But they need to reinvest that Corney money and quickly, and they'll not have done a great deal by the time that this comes round. And the squad level at minute, I would probably say is quite level to that of Donny's. Donny at home as well, they're very switched on out. They don't concede loads of goals. I think it'll be a low score of this. I don't think there'll be a great load of quality, but that'll suit Donny down to the ground. They'll be happy to just grind it out like that. And I'm not saying that they're a scrappy, poxy side, Donny, because they weren't against Exeter or against Middlesbrough really midweek. I quite fancy him for a win, you know, Donny here. But I think Wycombe, now that the Coney situation's resolved and the players sort of know what crack is, I'm fancying a draw, really. I'm really debating a Donny win. I'll go with 1-1, but like I said, I would not be surprised in the slightest that we're Donny 2-1. But I'll go 1 apiece, Donny and Wycombe. Leyton, Orient and Stockport. I'll tell you what, there's some games on here, isn't there? Some great fixtures early doers. Orient, after that horror start away at Huddersfield, they got the first win at home to Wigan, didn't they? And they were looked really quite sharp there, but then obviously they lost to Wycombe in midweek. I don't think it's a bad thing getting out of cups as early as possible, really, because not one person in here is going to even get to semis or even quarters, probably. So who's bothered? You know what I mean? It'd be good from a financial perspective if you get Man United or Liverpool away or something and money it brings in. Realistically, just focus on league if you want to get promoted. Just honestly, field your kids and get out. Against a Stockport team that I thought rode the luck against Bolton, rode the luck against Wycombe, but they sat here on 6 points. The bet crew 3-1 midweek and put a very, very strong team out. I think that, I can't even say his name. I was going to say Stockport's manager. I think he's just trying to get some momentum going early doers. And it's working. Obviously, they've won 3 out of 3. But Leyton Orient away is quite a toughie. Obviously, this was a playoff fixture last season and it was 2-2 at Leyton Orient, I believe, if I remember that properly. And you know what? I quite fancy it again. I still think there'll be a lot of goals in this fixture between these two sides. They'll both be going for it. I will go... To be fair, I fancy the same thing. I might go on Desmond again. Just run it back a little bit. What it were 6 months ago. Well, not even that, like 3 months ago even. 6. I'm doing it. Leyton Orient 2, Stockport 2. Lincoln and Plymouth. I'd completely ignore the Wimbledon result if I were a Lincoln fan. I said that in my AFL review. Plymouth, you can't really ignore much because you've lost your opening 2 games. But they did come from 2-0 down against QPR in Cup to win 3-2. They look a bit more somewhat like now than they did against us first game. So they've got odd little player in here and there. But they're still miles off where they should and could be if they actually spent some at brass that they've brought in. But I bang on about this every week and it'll probably carry on all this season. Lincoln are a good side. Defensively, they're a good side. At home, they're a good side. They bet Reading 2-0 first game. Plymouth cannot just look at Lincoln and think, oh, we're just going to go to this poxy northern shithole and just rip it up and get 3 points. And I don't think Plymouth are like that anyway because they're just doom and gloom and think they're getting relegated. I don't think it's going to be like quite that extreme, but Lincoln at home to Plymouth, to me, I'm trying to envision what it'll look like. I'm trying to see scoreboard in top left corner if I were watching game. And to be honest, it is saying 1-1. I'm debating a Plymouth win, but I'm going to say 1-1 because my instinct has given me that vision. So, Lincoln 1, Plymouth 1. Reading and Wimbledon. Well, like we said, I'll just touch on it quickly. Wimbledon bet Lincoln 2-0, didn't they, last weekend in League One game. Wimbledon were playing against 10 men for an hour and they got a penalty handed to him. So I'm not taking anything away from him, but they were like handicapped Lincoln in every possible way. So Wimbledon won 2-0. First game against Luton away, I thought they were defensively very good and showed serious grit and that they've got something about them in this division and that they're going to go down at fating if they do. Reading have looked the complete opposite. They look quite weak, mentally and physically, to be honest, and I think against a big, muscly, aggressive side in Wimbledon, they will struggle on set pieces. But away from home, Wimbledon will not pick up as many points as they will at home. I do think, looking at it objectively, that Wimbledon will go to 90% of away games, especially what you'd expect to be top 12, which Reading are in, and probably just sit 11 men behind ball and try and play odd counter, come away with 5 shots max all game, and just try and snag points here and there. And win your home games. Similar to what like an Exeter or Mansfield have to do at the start of this video. And I think they will. I think Wimbledon will get some points away from home by doing that. Because teams that have struggled to break them down, especially with weak width, will struggle. And I think Reading are that side. Spine of Reading's team, very good. Defensively good, midfield good, strikers good. Wingers, fullbacks, I am worrying about them. And don't get me wrong, I don't think Wimbledon are going to come and just dominate. But I think of set pieces and down counters when they can occasionally get them with Stevens, I think Wimbledon will get some joy in this game. I don't know if I'd go as far as saying I think they'll win, but I could see Wimbledon snagging a point here. And I will give them a 1-1 because of it. Reading needs some help down them widths and quickly. There's still obviously the financial struggle that's happening with them behind closed doors. It won't be as easy as just new owners, happy days, spend millions. And the signings are good, but they're still just way off what they need to be if they want to challenge properly. But Reading 1, Wimbledon 1. Stevenage at home to Northampton. Oh, God. Now, I was quite a fan of Northampton last season and I was rooting for them towards end when they were in trouble. And last season it was very much play good one week, play crap next. So far, it's play crap, play crap. Like, they got annihilated by Wigan. The scoreline could have been a disgrace. Against Bradford, yes, they've drawn 0-0, but it's against a newly promoted side that factually you will look at and think this is one of the weakest teams, this is a chance to win. And if Bradford could just sort the feet out in 6-yard box, they'd have lost, definitely. And obviously as well, it's sign a good team if you can play crap and still get points. But it's sign an absolutely horrendous one if you keep playing crap every week. Yeah, I worry about them. And obviously, Stevenage, they lost midweek, but they bet Rotherham 1-0, and Rotherham didn't even lay a glove on them. They bet Blackpool away in first week. I think Northampton, just textbook, will struggle to create something against a strong defence in Stevenage. And they are 2 for 2 in terms of league games so far. I am, seriously, I've got another one to add to the list with Luton, with Barnsley, with Huddersfield. I think Stevenage win 3 out of 3 games. I will go with a comfortable 2-0 win. I do think they're just much better than Northampton in terms of how well drilled they are, the personnel really in terms of the team that they've both got and what they can field, and just tactically how switched on Stevenage seem to be in comparison to Northampton. I think Stevenage will take advantage of a poor side that started slow. And finally is Wigan versus Peterborough. Now, obviously, I've got Peterborough getting relegated, which doesn't help, but they've lost the first 2 games. And then to really ram it home, they lost to Accrington Stanley away, who were high favourites to get relegated from League 2. They lost 2-1 away there in Cup. New week, same shit. I do worry about them defensively, as always. They are going to sign Lees from Huddersfield, a big no-nonsense defender. About time they changed the strategy in that area at pitch and brought someone like that in, because defensively they just look shot to shit already in its 2 games. Wigan we've already addressed, were really good against Northampton first game, but were crap against Leyton Orient. Back at home, might try and get a bit of a run going here, with some home form behind them. But Peterborough will be used to playing in front of like 4,000 fans, so it shouldn't be a problem. I'm kidding, guys, come on! This is actually quite tough. Wigan are undoubtedly a better team than what Peterborough are, but even though Peterborough started crap and conceded twice to Cardiff, twice to Luton, twice to Accrington Stanley, they've had a difficult start, Cardiff and Luton, and I always just fancy them going forward a little bit. Obviously they didn't do anything against Luton. I think they'll get the first point. I think Peterborough will get on board with this game with a 2-apiece draw, because defense, you can't ignore it, the defence is absolutely dog shit. And even though we stereotype Peterborough as being good going forward, they've not shown enough to me yet to warrant that this year. But I think this is a chance. Wigan are good defensively as well, so it's a test. But I do think this is a desi. Wigan 2, Peterborough 0. But that's that, my dear friends. Love you all. Kiss, make sure you like and subscribe if you do enjoy. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in a bit. Goodbye.
I say I'm a man, yes, I'm a mucker. I think of me saying as a right good looker. I say up that. Show us bit it.